on Perek Chav Ches, Pasuk. Where did we get to? Pasuk Yud Ches. So 28:18. Okay, we got to move a little faster today because we got a lot to cover. I got to put on the thing. Okay, 28:18. What page is it, gentlemen?
146.
Thank you. 146 is, okay. So it says like this. So Yaakov Avinu says, second line, Vayomer Manora Mokom Azay Zakim Beis Elokim V'Shar Shemayim. Vayash came Yaakov v'boker. Yaakov gets up in the morning. Vayikach es ha'evan asher samer ashos. So he takes the stone. Vayasem osa matzeva. He makes it into a altar. Vayitzok shemen al rosha. He pours out oil as a libation on this matzeva. It's cold in here. Believe it or not, you heard me say that. No, never heat. So Yaakov pours oil on this matzeva. And again, now the question you should be asking is, where did he get the oil from? I mean, this guy on a run from Esav, what did he do? He took a jug of oil with him when he ran out? Yeah, in case I build an altar somewhere. So the oil, the Medrash says the oil miraculously got there. Vayikra Shema Makomahu Beis El. He named it Beis El, the house of God. Ve'ulam Luz Shema Ish Shema Ir Larishona. It was originally called Luz. Now, the Gemara says this Luz is a very interesting place because the Gemara says Luz was a city that, number one, ultimately that's where they used the tcheles. That's where they had the tcheles for the tzitzis. The tcheles comes from this creature called a chilazon. I know what it is. Maybe Avi, can I trouble you to close? We'll close the door. Keep the air in. The Luz was a city where they had tcheles, and it was a very profitable business because if you had the tcheles from this sea creature called a chilazon, which surfaced once in 70 years, so if you could get a hold of the tcheles, so that was, nowadays we don't have tcheles, but the city that has it is Tzfas, obviously. But we don't have the original tcheles. It was also when Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the Beis HaMikdash, so Luz was not destroyed. And the most enchanting part about the city is that the Medrash says the angel of death had no authority in this city. And no one ever died in the city of Luz. If people, when they got old, there are two versions in the Medrash. There's one version that when they got tired of living, it's just so long you could be a Cleveland fan. They got tired of living, so they left the town to die. And there are they didn't actively. They just left the town. Other people live outside. It's not suicide. And number two, there was the angel of death had or there's another version that the people kind of escorted them outside at a certain point. But the angel of death had no accessibility to the city, number one, and number two, there was no entrance. There was a mistake. There was a secret entrance through apparently a Luz tree. There was a type of tree. You had to go under the tree, crawl on through a cave under the wall of the city. Now, the city is mentioned in the Gemara, and this is why I'm bringing it up. The famous story with Shlomo HaMelech. Are you familiar with remember the story of Shlomo HaMelech? Shlomo HaMelech once met the angel of death. The angel of death said to King Shlomo HaMelech, there are two men who were very, very beloved to Shlomo HaMelech, who the angel of death said, I've been sent to terminate their lives. And Shlomo HaMelech said to the angel of death, he said to the Malach HaMaves, well, good luck. And the Malach HaMaves left, and he was looking sad. So Shlomo HaMelech called the Shadim, which are the spiritual demons, who he also had control and access to them. And he said, I want you to transport these two men to the city of Luz, because the city of Luz, the angel of death, has no authority. And so the Seirim, the spiritual demons, they took these two men at the order of Shlomo HaMelech, brought them to the city of Luz, and just as they got before they could get in, as they got to the entrance, the angel of death got them, and they died. The next day, Shlomo HaMelech saw the angel of death, and he was all smiles. So he said, what are you in such a good mood? I said, exactly where I needed them, you sent them. That's what the Gemara says, the Gemara in Sukkah. Now, what's the Gemara telling us? So the lesson of the Gemara that is extremely important is an approach to life and decision making. The Gemara is telling us that we have to make the effort and we have to do the right thing. But ultimately, the results are in the hand of God. We don't control the results. We control making the decision. We don't control the results. So for example, you're standing at a 16-lane highway. There's a guy, closes his eyes, runs across the highway. Cars are screeching on their brakes left, right, and center. He makes it across the highway with his eyes closed. And not only that, on the other side of the highway, he finds a wallet with $50,000 in it. The second guy now has to cross the highway. What should he do? Should he carefully look both ways or close your eyes and dash across? So he does the logical thing. He looks both ways, waits for all traffic to clear, crosses 16 lanes, and somewhere in the middle, a light aircraft crashes into him and kills him. Now, who did the right thing? And what's the proof of who did the right thing? What would you do if you're the third guy? Now, that's the proof. Are you going to, read the data. He closed his eyes and he made $50,000. He opened his eyes and he died. So what am I going to do? So what are you going to do? You're going to close your eyes? No, you're going to open your eyes, look both ways, maybe look up just in case. And that's what you're going to do. That means that to make the right decision, you got to make the right decision based on the logic. What the results are, you can't, what do you call it? You can't, I know somebody who he was invested in a startup. And the startup wasn't doing very good. So he pulled out of this startup years ago. And maybe you've heard of this startup. The name of the startup is Amazon. So to this day, he's kicking himself, which he should because he's intermarried. But he's kicking himself because I should have stayed in. You're not a prophet. You read the data, and you make a logical decision in life. And there are people who make themselves miserable looking back, thinking, boy, I should have, or I shouldn't have, or I would have, or I could have, or I didn't. You can't live like that because if you were a prophet, you could. All you have to do is make a logical decision. Right now, this is the available data. Should I do A or should I do B? If you're a somewhat rational person, which is a big assumption for many people on this planet, but if you're a somewhat rational person, I look at the two. A seems to be the best decision available under the circumstances. So what good does it look back at? The results are anyway not in my hands. That's where God enters the picture. Sometimes God manipulates our thoughts, so we make the wrong decision or make a foolish decision. But under most circumstances, I'm reading the data. You have a, what do you call it? You have a, what's it called, a Waze? What's it called, a Waze? So you look at your Waze. The Waze says this way is going to take you 20 minutes. This way is going to take you 45 minutes. So what are you going to do? You're going to follow that. Now, as you're going that way, an 18-wheeler jackknifes across the highway and blocks traffic for 6 hours. So what are you going to do? You're going to sit there saying, boy, we should have gone the other way. No one in the right mind would have gone the other way if the Waze is telling you to go this way. So what happened? What happened was that obviously Hashem wanted you here with this frustration under these circumstances. I just was told a story the other night. I was at a bar mitzvah. A guy told me, he's from, excuse me one second. Guy's from Atlanta. He said years ago his grandfather was, some guy now was going door to door, knocking on doors, selling shares in a company. So he knocks on the door. He says, we're selling shares for $1. We're going back probably to, a long time ago. Maybe it was his great-grandfather. Selling shares of this company for $1. We're coming up with a new drink. It's sweet and it's dark. And he says, nobody's going to drink dark drinks. So you get, I'm not interested. He says, listen, it's $1 a share. You could do, what is it? He says, I'm not interested. The name of the company is Coca-Cola. And the guy never bought the shares, right? If I would have known now what I knew then, so everything would be different. But we're not knowing now what we didn't know then. It means you're a prophet. And last I checked, We are not. Now, maybe some of you are. If you are, please let me know afterwards. Then we have to do some serious talking. But that's what the city of Luz is. Now, take a look at Pasuk Chav Aleph. Vishavti Yaakov Avinu then makes a pledge, and he says in Pasuk 21, 5 lines from the bottom, 146. Vishavti b'shalom, if God protects me, Vishavti b'shalom el beis avi, and I will come back in peace to my father's home. V'hoya Hashem li l'elokim, Hashem will be my God. Now, Yaakov Avinu over here says that he wants to come back in shalom. Shalom does not just mean physically. I'm running off into who knows where, and I'm making a pledge that if I come back in one piece. But in one piece means also one piece spiritually. The Yaakov Avinu feels that, when you go out somewhere, who knows where you're going, and who knows what kind of people and influences you're going to be subject to, which we're going to see a little bit more about later. And therefore, Yaakov makes his pledge. Why does he say, when I come back to my father's house? Why does he emphasize, if I come back to my father's house? I mean, he's a grown man at this point. Yaakov Avinu is 84 years old. He's 77 years old. He's a grown man. Why does he talk about, if I come back to my father's house in b'shalom, in one piece spiritually? So one of the Meforshim says over here, your spiritual level and how you're judged spiritually depends on who's judging you. If you have a bunch of guys, a bunch of goofballs sitting in a bar, and then after spending a night drinking and eating peanuts and watching a ball game, one of them then goes and he makes an after bracha, a boring nefashos on the peanuts and on the beer. The other guys are like, wow, he is frum. Now, he's the frum one of the group. Right? Now, if you compare him to the guy sitting in the Mir Yeshiva, so he doesn't look that frum. Who's judging you? In the world at large, you ever see when they interview a guy the guy says, listen, I'm a good person, I never hurt anybody. You ever see that interview? I'm a good person, I never hurt anybody. The standard for some people to be a good person is you never hurt anybody. I'm a good person, I never hurt anybody. I had the opportunity to slam doors on people's fingers, and I never did it, so I'm a good person. Now, that makes you a good person because you never tripped anybody and you never slammed doors on anybody's finger. Okay, some people think that's a good person. Other people think a good person is when you live with discipline, put on tefillin, daven on time, learn Torah, help other people. There are different levels of good person. Yaakov Avinu says, I want to come back wholesome spiritually in my father's eyes. When a Yitzchak Avinu looks at you, and he says, yeah, you're doing okay. Your Yiddishkeit is intact. That's a different view than anybody else. And that's why Yaakov Avinu emphasizes what he called El Beis Avi. When I was in college, so I once lost my wallet. I'm trying to think, where could my wallet possibly be? And I got my driver. I didn't care. I had $5 in the wallet, and I had my driver's license. It's got my picture on it. And I was one of the only people in the college running around with a yarmulke. So I should have been pretty obvious who I was. And it wasn't a big college. And I was trying to think, where could my wallet possibly be? Then I realized it probably fell out. When I went to the bathroom, it fell out of my pants pocket. So I go to the bathroom, and I open the stall, and sure enough, there's my wallet right on the dispenser. Somebody was good enough, apparently, to pick it up off the floor and leave it on the dispenser. And I opened it up, and of course, the $5 is missing, which I didn't care about. But I didn't care as long as I had my wallet, my driver's license. That I could live with the $5. I didn't care. But I'm trying to put myself in the place of the guy who found it. And I'm sure the guy who found it thought to himself, he's doing me a favor. He's not throwing the wallet away. He's putting it on the dispenser where it's certainly accessible to me. And he deserves a $5 reward. He decided to reward himself, apparently. And in his eyes, from a Torah perspective, you have to give back the ball, find the guy. In his eyes, he probably thought, I'm a tzaddik. He probably thought of himself as being a tzaddik because, after all, I helped the guy out. I didn't take the ball. I could have thrown the ball in the trash bin, and I left it right where it was, and I even put it on the dispenser, so he shouldn't have to bend down. When they had the Daf Yomi, the first Siyum of Shas, Daf Yomi, at Madison Square Garden, so they had 20,000 frum Jews in Madison Square Garden, making a siyum on Shas. So there was a non-Jewish policeman who comes over to his friend. He says, darn, I lost my wallet. Now imagine losing your wallet at a Knicks game at Madison Square Garden. Right? Goodbye. Goodbye. So he says to his friend, darn it, I lost my wallet. So his friend says, don't worry, with this crowd, you'll get it back. And sure enough, he got it back. Right? That's a different level of who is doing the judging and who the people are around you. They had the last Siyum Hashas, was it, where did the Mets play? Citi Field. So they had, I think, they have 100,000 people there? Something like that. Now put yourself in the position of the non-Jews who are watching this. You've got a crowd of 100,000 people in a stadium. Not one beer is being consumed. No, there's not one beer. There's not one fist fight. There's not one. No, can you imagine how this looks to everybody else? And not only that, I'm sure they're baffled by why are these people celebrating finishing a series of books? Wow, they're making a siyum on Harry Potter. And they're making a siyum on Encyclopedia Britannica. I mean, listen, read it and get on with your life. What's with the celebration over here? Not one beer is being sold. Not one mugging. Not one pickpocketing. And the whole thing. It's astonishing. And not only that, the biggest joke of all is they daven Mariv. They daven Mariv together. So everybody says, Kihem chayenu v'orechemenu v'negeh v'avaschal t'tzur mimenu l'olam 100,000 voices. Baruch atah Hashem, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Dead silence. 100,000 people, dead silence. What just happened? Can you imagine people from the outside? Shema Yisrael, Amen, Yehesh Ve'Rava. I would have loved to find out what's going through their minds when all this is happening. Okay. Now, Yaakov Avinu then takes off. Take a look at Pasuk Chavtes, Perek Chavtes, Pasuk Aleph. Vayisa Yaakov Raglov. Yaakov picks up his feet, 2 lines from the bottom. Vayelech arza b'nei kedem. Now, why is Yaakov, he picks up his feet. So this is after Hashem has promised him that he's, he's going to give him the land, and he's got this ladder which shows that and Hashem has promised you're going to have the land and all the good things. He picks up his feet and he starts moving. And the Mefarshim say, Yaakov Avinu, when he got here, this is a guy running for his life. You're mooted. All of a sudden he picks up his feet confidently and he walks out of the room. What does that mean? What happened over here? So there are certain times in life where you find out information that changes your mood. You just found out that the bank, or you're entitled to some sort of tax rebate. All of a sudden you find out there's a tax rebate, you got $7,500 coming to you. It's going to be in your account at the end of the week. How do you feel? All of a sudden what a nice day out, isn't it? And all of a sudden you're a little more, you go to the NFL draft and you're kind of depressed. Then you find out the Bears just drafted Caleb Williams, and you kind of walk out of that draft room wow, okay, this is going to be good. And then the season starts. And you're like this. And then you find out, you just got information that there was a league-wide plot to cheat because of the concern the Bears would be too good. All referees in the league have been giving the games to the other teams. And there's been a decision that all games the Bears have lost this year, they've automatically now given an award. The Bears are officially 12-0. They're now 12-0. You walk, that's how Yaakov Avinu feels. Yaakov Avinu was in a kind of a very, very difficult state. And all of a sudden, Vayisa Raglav, he picks up his feet. Now he moves confidently off to this other land. And now what happens is he gets to a well, and he sees there are a bunch of shepherds over there by the well. Now pay attention very carefully here. He pays attention. He sees that there are a bunch of shepherds by the well. Somebody starts up with you. You walk. You don't respond. It takes tremendous strength not to respond, especially in domestics. To not answer your wife, Your wife says something, she's in a bad mood, she said something to you, or you said something to her, she doesn't answer you, your parents, your siblings, somebody's having a bad day, and they said something to you, and you don't respond, that takes greater strength than responding. Somebody, to walk away, that's what Yaakov Avinu is teaching you, walk away. There's a potential fight over here, walk away. By the way, the battery died, you know what it reminds me of? They say that Jewish men have much greater faith than Jewish women. I can prove it to you. Every Jewish man has a drawer in his house with dead batteries in it. And one day he's hoping they're going to come to life. He believes he has much more faith than the women always throw the batteries out and the men keep them, right? Because one day it may come in handy, like that rusty bicycle tire you have in the back room. You never know when you're going to need an old bicycle chain. No, don't throw that away. And then the women go on a search and destroy mission right before Pesach. That's when things start disappearing, right? If you want to keep it, boys, before Pesach, just put it under your body and lie down on it. Because everything that you're not on top of is going to disappear when the women go cleaning house for Pesach. Hey, no, not that. Don't throw that out. It's my wallet. Well, if you want to keep it, just put it away. Otherwise, it's going with the chametz. It's gone. Yaakov Avinu, number one, shows that's the show of strength, number one. Number two, I heard a much deeper idea here. And this goes to the Gemara says, do you remember the Gemara says that Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, his daughter, one Erev Shabbos, looked upset. So he said to her, what's wrong? She said, well, I set up the candles for Shabbos, and instead of putting in oil, I put in vinegar. So he said to her, the one that told the oil to burn will tell the vinegar to burn. Just light the vinegar. She lit the candles with vinegar fuel, which, by the way, gentlemen, it doesn't work. She lit the candles with vinegar instead of oil, and the candles burnt, and not only they burnt until Motzei Shabbos, they made Havdalah on those candles, a double miracle. That's what the Gemara says. What did he say to her? He said, the one that told the oil to burn will tell the vinegar to burn. If somebody were to ask you, why does oil burn? What would you say? Well, you try to remember something from chemistry class about combustibility and all sorts of fancy big words. That's why oil burns. That's not why oil burns. Oil burns for one reason. God decreed that oil should be flammable, should be served as a fuel. He could have just as easily decreed it about marshmallow fluff. But he didn't. Marshmallow fluff was decreed to go on 2 pieces of bread with peanut butter and make a fluffernutter. That is the role of marshmallow fluff. Oil is something that's supposed to burn. What was Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa saying to his daughter? It makes no real difference. If you believe that it's only because of God, 100%, not 99%. That means if in the course of Shabbos, somebody would have walked past those vinegar flames, if in the course of the Shabbos, somebody would have walked past and gone, hey, it's really burning, that it wouldn't burn. Because it means you don't really believe it. But if you believe it, so that it makes no difference if it's vinegar or oil. If you're at that level, it makes no difference if it's a boulder or if it's a cork on a bottle. What's the difference? The only reason why could you get a cork off of a bottle? Only because God puts strength in your hands. Without God's strength in my fingers, I can't get a cork out of a bottle either. Anything that I could do, as the Ramban says, everything's a miracle. We only look at splitting of the sea. Well, what a miracle, because we're not used to it. The fact that you could go like this is a miracle. So for Yaakov Avinu, when it says because his strength was great, what strength are we talking about? His strength of faith. His strength of faith. His faith was on such a high level that to him it makes no difference if it's a cork or if it's a stone. And therefore Yaakov Avinu could walk over and he could pop off a rock off the well as easily as somebody else. What takes 10 shepherds by natural law to do, Yaakov's ability to do it is only as a result of his strength of faith. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow.